probably the best physiotherapist I've ever come in my life. One that's approachable and actually understands the person.
I just knew that Caroline would be perfect to work with her.
Esther loves her Pilates, which is like
A Pilates addict.
a Pilates addict.
Self-confessed Pilates addict. Keep humble. Keep working with people. Keep learning about the body. Keep knowing what's going. You want to know what's going on.
Hi, I'm Caroline Clarke, Heal Your Pain, and I'm so excited at the moment because my world is expanding. And yesterday we had a fabulous chat with Casey, who I work with, and today I want to introduce Esther. Now, I've known Esther for about 10 years since I moved to Devon, and probably the best physiotherapist I've ever come in my life. One that's approachable and actually understands the person. So, Esther.
Hello, Caroline. Thank you so much for having me here today. So I think what we're going to do, talk a little bit about how we work together and how we approach things.
I want to know more about your background.
Okay. So I'm Esther Fox. I am a physiotherapist and I work in Tavistock. Now, I think Caroline was asking me earlier, why did I become a physiotherapist? And actually, I thought about this and I thought, I was that person at school that hated PE, but I never stopped moving. I was one of those people who, from an early age, I remember going off on an expedition when I was 10 with my dog, and my dad picked me up and I was 5 miles away. And then, I'd get up in the morning before school and I'd cycle and muck out the horses, even though it was absolutely pelting down with rain. And I'd swim before or after school. I'd swim before school. I'd cycle after school. But I hated PE. I hated that kind of structured exercise. And it was the kind of love of movement, really, from an early age, knowing that movement really made the difference in, I probably didn't even know the words, but realised it made a difference to we didn't have mental health then, did we? But to your mental and physical health, that took me down the line of physiotherapy.
So when you first left school, what did you do there?
I didn't go straight into physio. So I knew in my heart of hearts when I was about 14 that I wanted to be a physio, but physio is very academic. And I was a bit of a wild child. So I disappeared off to Cheltenham and spent a few years riding racehorses and went to agricultural college, where I still couldn't really sit still. I used to ride 3 horses most days before I could do any kind of work. And then spent a few years in horse racing and eventing. And then I thought, probably time I knuckled down now and do something academic. And I started working at East Surrey Hospital, which is in the southeast. And then from there went to university, did my physiotherapy training, and then went on and moved to Devon from there.
Do you know, I think it's so interesting when you find your vocation in life, because I was 50 when I started this, and I've done so many things until I'm over here. But yes, we've already said that Esther and I have known each other for about 10 years, and we've actually worked a few times together, but it's been in this past year that we really got together a lot more. And I was taking on my studio again, and I was thinking, oh God, I don't want to take this on for another 6 years by myself. And Esther said, but I'd love to come in, but I don't want to take it on by myself either. So Esther has been running for the past 5 years a huge physiotherapy unit to do with one of the leading sports schools in England, which is Mount Kelly. They've got loads of athletes, loads of swimmers, which you know far more about than I do. But Esther has to keep them in one piece. So she's got a team of physios that works with her. But Esther loves her Pilates, which is like
a Pilates addict.
A Pilates addict.
Self-confessed Pilates addict.
So Esther, over to you.
Okay, so as Caroline said, I'm a director and clinical lead at Mount Kelly. So there, it's a sports school. We have an elite sport pathway, and we have to get these athletes, keep them on the straight and narrow. So outside of that, I also run a private practice where anyone can come and see any of our physios. You can walk off the street. So my speciality really is orthopedics and musculoskeletal rehab. My PhD was in neurological rehab and clinical trials, but that's in the past now. And I tend to do a lot of teaching and I do quite a lot of physio myself actually these days too. But I work, so Caroline and I share the studio and we run it together. And from the studio, I run Pilates classes, clinical Pilates classes. Now, these are classes for people, or they're tailored and designed for people who have aches, pains and injuries. I'm not actually very classical in my, I'm not a die-hard Pilates purist, although I am completely addicted to Pilates. And I really adapt what we're doing to the people who I have in front of me. So the people who come to my classes tend to have back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, replaced joints, heart problems. But I also do have some quite high-end athletes. Now, in my clinic, when I see people who may come in with aches, pains and injuries, I do an assessment, put together a bit of a program, but I very often send them over to Caroline, because Caroline is absolutely brilliant at motivating people to move. And that is what she does best, in my humble opinion. She is so good at keeping people coming and moving and coming to classes week in, week out, year in, year out, aren't you?
Well, I think my big thing is that because I've an older body, you say she's a young un. I got 20 years on her. So I've got an older body. I understand the older body. And I always go to Esther if I've got something that I'm a little bit worried about and I think they need a little bit more medical advice than I can, because I'm not medical, but I'm great intuition. So this is where the two of us work so well together.
So I actually had a lady this week. I don't know if she's contacted you. She had,
oh, no.
Anyway, she had quite a few problems. She had a heart problem. She had a back problem. She had a hip problem. I think she was about 75. Really lovely lady. And she was one. She really wanted to get moving, actually, but she had a bit of a heart problem. She was a bit worried about it. She's been cleared by the medics. She was immediately someone I said to Caroline, because she was not really going to be right for Pilates. She wasn't going to be right for getting on and off the floor and up and down in that pace of the class. And I just knew that Caroline would be perfect to work with her, because she just needed a bit of motivation. She was there. She wanted to do it, but she just needed a bit of nurturing support and tailoring and the follow-up, but also someone who understands heart problems. So just... who would understand her anxiety around when she has the episode. So that's when we work brilliantly together. So Caroline bounces the people, sends the people to me who, you know, she's concerned about. Maybe someone needs a hip replacement. Maybe somebody is waiting for a hip replacement. Maybe somebody is has a bit of Achilles tendinopathy, or we're not really sure what it is. And I assess them or I'd give advice. Anyone who I think needs that kind of nurturing support, doesn't need, you know, beasting like they do down at the gym, I say to Caroline.
Right, so this is getting down to the crux of it, of how can a physio and a postural alignment specialist work together. So I've gone for the best with Esther. I don't muck about with people that I can't work with. And having Esther very, very medical is very useful to my business as well, because I've got clients that need reassurance. You know, I don't know medical things. I can see things and I can help people. But if it gets down to major medical things, Esther has got the doctors she can refer on to. She's also got the knowledge behind her. There's a big thunderstorm going on outside, by the way, if you're hearing the thunder and lightning, or we might lose this in a minute. But, so Esther, we have worked together with people with like hip replacements, and also I think people get very, very frightened with spinal things.
Yeah, spinal pain is a big one. So I think we'll start with hip replacement. So this was, I do a lot of orthopedics. I've worked in orthopedics for a long time, probably more than 20 years, 20 plus years. So Caroline phoned me the other day and said, Esther, I've got a chap here. He's waiting for a hip replacement.
He goes on the 31st.
Yeah. So he's going to be in quite a lot of pain. He's had his x-rays, you know, he's gone through the process. And I said, yeah, okay, two things really important here. He needs prehab and he needs rehab. So your prehab is what you do prior to having your joint replacement. I cannot stress how important this is. Prehab is everything, because that's when your body learns the exercises that you need to do. That's when your neural pathways connecting, you embed it into your muscle memory. Yeah. So Caroline is really good at working with people to get those exercises, that prehab in place. You don't have your surgery, and then you come out all woozy from the anaesthetic, and you've had bits of some pretty major surgery, and then you start your rehab journey. Now, the more prehab you've done, the more that's embedded into your muscle memory, the more you know what you're doing, the easier your pathway out of there is going to be. So then your rehab exercises are really important. Now, I had a chap the other day who he had a hip replacement a couple of months ago, and he came to see me and he said, just, want to make sure everything's okay. And I had a look at it, and I was really not worried about anything. He was fine. So he then had the all clear to push on and work through his rehabilitation pathway. And that's where Caroline's really good, because she's like the little parrot on your shoulder that says, have you done your exercise?
Or stalker.
Stalker. Have you done your exercise? She's always there making sure, motivating people and pushing them on. And that's vital when you've had a hip replacement. Now, one thing that I get a lot of stick about, actually, and you'll never see it in my practice because I hate it, is just people being handed a sheet of exercises. This happens a lot in the NHS. I realise the NHS is very stretched. I'm not criticising the individual physios. And actually for a joint replacement, maybe it's okay, but I see it all the time that when people have something that needs exercise, and it could be back pain, knee pain, spinal pain, hip pain, blah, blah, and they get given a sheet of exercises, the amount of people who come in and say to me, oh, the physio gave me a sheet of exercises, I didn't really know which ones to do. I think I've probably lost a bit of paper. I did them once. It's my bugbear. I'm not criticising it, the NHS, because I know that they have very stretched resources, but if you want to get better, you need to be moving, you need to be exercising, you need to be working your muscles, and that is where Caroline comes in, because I send people to her. She's got all these classes online, she's got classes on at the studio, and she doesn't let people get away with not doing it.
So the next thing that I get a lot of, and people get frightened of, is backs.
Yeah.
I look at backs about being a joint above each joint, and as long as the muscles are there holding them securely, your back should be all right, and we can keep them under control. But people get very frightened, and this is when Esther comes in, because you yourself are great on backs, but you've also got a back specialist, haven't you?
So two things. In the clinic, we have a spinal specialist, a clinical specialist in spinal conditions. She's called an extended scope practitioner, and she's worked in the hospital, various hospitals, just literally doing spinal conditions, working with the spinal surgeons. She can read MRIs. Anyway, I've learned a hell of a lot from her. She works in the clinic with us. So anything more complicated than I can deal with, I send to her. Most things I like to hope I can deal with. Most kind of, I'd say your bread and butter back pain is, something that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. Now, Caroline is right. When people have back pain, you get all sorts of anxiety around that, all sorts of fear responses. Now, it's well understood now in pain science and in medicine that pain and structure are not necessarily correlated. So, and this is something that Caroline is really, really good at understanding. To be honest, she probably taught me this more than anything. And that's that. People's pain is a very individual experience, isn't it? And it's not necessarily related to what's going on internally. So the great thing, one of the things I always say is that someone can come in and they can present with some back pain, and they can have had an MRI scan, and you might have we can be all medical about it and use lots of long words, and they can maybe have a disc prolapse or some stenosis, or they've got some nerve root impingement going down your L4, L5 nerve root, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, these are all very long, scary words, and I try not to use it too much in clinic, actually, to be honest, but all the person knows, and even if you're a medical professional, I know it myself, you come into clinic and you think, or someone's clinic, and you're in agony, and at the back of your mind you think, well, I must have some kind of spinal tumour, and I'm probably dying, and I'm never going to be able to work again, and I'm not going to be able to support my family, and I'm not going to be able to do the things I need. Now, my job is to de-escalate that. So I do my assessment, and I work out what's going on, and and I have what we call red flag questions that we ask. So these are eliminating serious or sinister pathology. And once I'm convinced somebody I'm happy to proceed, that's when we get down to the business of physiotherapy. Now, if you have back pain, you probably, unless you have an unstable fracture, you will need to exercise. You will need to do some movement for that. You will need to build up the muscles which support the joints. But your life may dictate what you can and can't do. So I think we live in quite an agricultural area, quite a rural area. We both come from various farming backgrounds, really, don't we? If Bob, who's come in to see you, has got 600 cows to milk, and the milk price is going down and the diesel prices are going up, and he still has to feed those cows, and you've not been able to turn them out for 4 months because it hasn't stopped raining, and he's going to be out there bending over, doing this, that and the other, and he's going to be straining his back, but he's also under a huge amount of financial strain, which quite often can affect the pain. Yeah, of course. Emotional strain, because he's thinking, well, we've had this farm in the family for 3 generations, and if we don't make it succeed, everything's going to fail. And so that is where de-escalation is really important, but support is really important. So psychological support, motivation, and somebody who just understands what's going on.
I think on that, I've seen so many clients that I think probably you're the same, Esther. Within about 5 minutes of being with a client, you know whether the pain's in their back or in their head.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. I do agree with that.
If you see somebody, I see, because I work with putting people on the ground and getting them off, if they're jumping on and off the ground and they go, my back's a 9, it's a 9, I'm thinking, yeah, but I don't say, oh, the back, it's in your head and it's not in your body.
Yeah.
You've got to be very diplomatic, but I know the routes to send down. If I see somebody in absolute agony and they, there's usually some exercises that can reduce that pain. There are some, but you've got to judge it. And like Esther says, there are some red flag questions.
Yeah, we screen for red flags,
to start with.
Yeah.
But between us, I think what we're saying is we understand bodies. Esther from the horsey background, from the agricultural background and everything, and the same with me. And also from having falls and having things happen to us. And I know that my body, touch wood quickly, is in a far better state now in my 60s than I ever was up to my 50s. I have been exercising since my 50s onwards, and I very rarely get pain. But also the back pain can really hit when there's stress.
Emotional stress is a massive one. And I remember actually earlier on last year, both Addie, my father, died, and Caroline also had some bereavement. And Caroline said to me, my back's gone, I've been in so much pain. And did I say, yeah, but Caroline, you just lost a friend.
Yeah.
Did I say, I don't know whether I did it or not.
Yeah.
I think you knew it though, didn't you? Yeah. Caroline never has back pain. You never complained about back pain, and your back just went, didn't it?
At night.
Yeah. With no trauma, no index, as in physical trauma, no car crashes, no sort of lifting. There was no what we call index injury. It was your back went. And then, we sort of talked it through a bit, and, we talked about the loss and the bereavement and the process, and the body, it isn't as black and white as you've got an injury, that's your pain, carry on, blah, blah, blah. It's just, it's understanding that. And I think, well, I guess that's what life experience brings, isn't it?
I think this is why I like working with Esther, is because she works out the box as well. That it isn't just, that's where it is, that's where it's got to be. So you're looking elsewhere at the same time. And this is also why there are other people that probably Esther works with, as well as I work with, that are on the psychological people, that if they need some help, that they need some help. There are people that you can
refer on to. Yeah. On the other side of it, I work with quite a lot of teenage boys who are not known to have a high pain threshold. who come in and tell me, this is definitely 9 out of 10. Yeah, pain's 9 out of 10 on the phone, scrolling through. And then, of course, I see the farmer's wife who had, 6 babies in the kitchen. fall over. They've got a massive fracture, and so, oh, I took a paracetamol and hoped it would go away. So pain is it's actually one of my areas I find most fascinating, because it's just so interesting. You know, people are just not textbooks, are they? You know,
They're all individuals. Everybody is different.
It's actually on that note of people being individuals and not textbooks. One of the things that I feel quite strongly about is, no matter how high you go up the ladder of your career in medicine, if you're working with people or as a therapist, whether you go into lecturing or research or management, is that I keep 2 clinics a week that I see people off the street, general, your bread and butter. I work within my discipline, my speciality, so musculoskeletal problems, but it keeps me really humble. You know, nobody really quite reacts. You think to yourself one day, oh, this is, I know what's going to happen here. You'll be better in 3 sessions, blah, blah, blah. And then you think, you know, oh my God, I didn't see that one coming. Also, the flip side is, I think to myself occasionally, I think, oh God, you're going to need some surgery. Oh, I'm really worried about this. And then they get better in 2 sessions, and you think, people surprise you all the time. So I think it's really, really important for me, and anyone working with people, keep one foot on the shop floor, keep at the coalface, keep humble, keep working with people, keep learning about the body, keep knowing what's going. You want to know what's going on with people, don't you? I think that's really important. Don't get stuck in an ivory tower. Don't go so high up the ladder that you're not working with people anymore, if that's your job.
I agree entirely. Esther, thank you very much for spending the time and bothering, coming through a thunderstorm to come and work.
I walked to get here, actually. It took me an hour because my truck's in the garage. So
I have to say, all my clients that live in the area thought it would take her 15 minutes.
It took me an hour to walk from one side, and I stomped as well.
It's a long way. I reckon an hour is just really spot on. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I've thoroughly enjoyed being here, and I'm hoping to come back soon to talk about more. I love talking about the body.
We're going to do loads. See you soon. Bye.